Imagine a place so far from help that even your scream wouldn't know which way to travel. That's where we're going tonight. No streetlights, no cell bars, no second chances. Just the low hiss of wind moving through trees that have never heard a human voice and don't plan to start now. Tonight, I'm taking you to 5 documented disappearances in America's emptiest corners, places where the maps run out of ink and the search parties come back quieter than they left.
These aren't creepypastas.
They're not campfire tales. They're pulled straight from National Park Service incident reports, declassified search and rescue case files, 911 transcripts that still make dispatchers look away from the screen, and the last pages of journals the rangers found wedged under rocks like the forest was trying to hand them back. 5 times, 5 different wilderness areas, 5 groups who knew exactly what they were doing. Until they very suddenly didn't. No bodies, no blood, not even a torn jacket or a dropped knife. Just boot prints that reach the middle of nowhere and stop, like the earth opened its mouth, inhaled once, and closed again without a sound. People ask why these stories stay quiet. The Park Service doesn't advertise them. Families don't want reminders, and the land itself, well, it keeps its own counsel. But the paperwork is public if you know which forms to request. And tonight, under this soft, steady rain that sounds almost like someone whispering your name from a long way off, we're going to read those forms together. We begin in a forest that covers more land than some European countries, and still found room to swallow 4 experienced hikers without a trace. You have to leave the valley floor, leave the tour buses and the ice cream stands and the postcard views, to reach the place the backcountry rangers call the pocket that maps forgot. It's a hanging valley west of Tuolumne, walled in by quarter-mile granite cliffs that never see direct sun after 3 in the afternoon. In summer, the air smells of Jeffrey pine and hot dust. In winter, the snow piles so deep, the bears don't even bother coming through.
Sound behaves strangely here.
20 feet away, a voice drops dead, swallowed by stone and moss and the low, constant breathing of waterfalls you can't quite see. That's where the Yahweh family pitched their tents on July 14, 1998. Daniel and Miriam, both 41, both seasoned backpackers who'd done the John Muir Trail twice. Their kids, Caleb, 16, Talia, 14, little Micah, 9, who still carried a stuffed giraffe named Jeremiah. They had a permit for 4 nights, filed a perfect itinerary, told the ranger at the kiosk they were looking for quiet enough to hear God think. The ranger laughed and stamped the form. Day 1 was a pure postcard. Polaroids later recovered show the 5 of them sprawled on a slab of glacier-polished granite, eating peanut butter sandwiches and watermelon, the kids' faces sticky and shining. Another photo, Talia chasing a fat marmot while Micah shrieks with laughter. Daniel's journal that evening is calm, almost lyrical. Sunset turned the cliffs blood-red. The silence here feels deliberate, like the mountains are listening.
Day 2 they hiked up valley toward an unnamed lake.
The trail peters out after 2 miles after that. It's cross-country, boulder hopping, following cairns no one has touched since the 70s. They made the lake by noon, swam in water so cold it burned, ate freeze-dried lasagna under a sky the color of robin's eggs. Miriam took a picture of Daniel standing waist-deep, arms spread like he was baptizing the wilderness itself. On the way back, they gathered kindling, told stories, sang half-remembered camp songs that echoed once off the walls and then vanished. That night, Daniel wrote, "Wind died completely. Stars so thick you could scoop them with a spoon. The children are asleep. Miriam is humming. Everything is perfect." Day 3. The entry is shorter, written in the same steady hand. We are not alone. Something is walking with us that doesn't make noise. Footsteps in the pine needles. But when you turn, there's nothing. The kids feel it too. Micah keeps asking who the extra person is in the tent. We prayed together. It helped, I think. That's the last sentence in the journal. They were expected to hike out the morning of the 18th. When they didn't show up at the trailhead, the permit desk waited 24 hours. Standard procedure, then called in search and rescue. The team reached the campsite at dawn on the 20th. What they found still keeps veteran rangers awake. The two tents were zipped shut from the inside. Sleeping bags laid out, still holding the shape of bodies that had slept warm. The cookstove was cold, but the pot on it held spaghetti sauce that still steamed when they lifted the lid. 5 plates, 5 forks arranged neatly. On the picnic table, half a watermelon, no flies on it even though the air was 70 degrees. 5 camp chairs in a perfect circle around the dead fire. 5 pairs of boots lined up side by side, laces tucked in, socks folded on top like they were waiting for feet that would never return. No struggle, no blood, no dragged heel marks. Just 5 people erased between one heartbeat and the next, sometime after dinner, sometime before dawn. The search went on for 17 days. Dogs, helicopters, infrared, cadaver teams. They found one more thing, Micah's stuffed giraffe, Jeremiah, sitting upright on a boulder 200 yards up valley, facing the cliffs as if keeping watch. No footprints around it, no scent for the dogs. Just the giraffe and the smell of sudden snow moving in. 17 days. Then the weather closed the pocket for the season. The file is still open. Every few years a new ranger pulls it, reads Daniel's last comm line. Something is walking with us that doesn't make noise and quietly puts it back in the cabinet. If something can walk into a sunlit meadow in one of America's busiest national parks and take an entire family in broad daylight, leave their dinner warm and their shoes waiting, what chance did a lone teenager have 2,000 miles north? In a wilderness so dense the satellites still draw it as a green smear. The Nahanni doesn't appear on most maps as anything more than a thin blue thread lost in green. Locals still call one stretch Headless Valley because gold prospectors used to turn up missing their skulls or missing entirely. In 2004, a 19-year-old from Whitehorse decided the stories were just stories. Her name was Elise Morale. She was small, fearless, and carried a camcorder the way other people carry rosaries. She started at Rabbit Kettle Lake with 32 days of food, a sat phone, a PLB, and a plan to be the youngest woman to solo the full Nahanni Cirque-to-Circle route. Every night she propped the camera on a rock hit record and talked to the future version of herself who would already be famous for this. Day 1, winds loud, rivers louder, everything echoes like crazy. I feel like a rock star. Day 4, Virginia Falls. You can stand behind the curtain of water and scream and the falls just swallow the sound. It's wild. Day 8, deep in the funeral range. Okay, the echo stopped. I yelled and nothing came back. Weird, but kinda cool. By day 12, her voice had dropped half an octave, the way people speak in libraries without meaning to. It's so quiet my own pulse sounds rude. The valley just eats sound. I like it. That was the first time she mentioned breathing. She was testing the sat phone, holding it to her ear, frowning. There's no signal, but I can hear someone breathing on the line. Slow, calm, not me, whatever. She laughed it off. The camera caught the tiny flare of her headlamp reflecting in eyes that still believed the world was reasonable. Day 15. I keep finding my footprints from yesterday and they look wrong. Like something walked in them after me, pressing deeper. Maybe bears. Maybe I'm just tired. Day 18. The valley floor narrowed to a gorge with walls so close the sky became a bright scar overhead. She filmed herself walking, narrating in a whisper now. No birds today. No squirrels. Even the river sounds muffled, like it's coming through blankets. She panned the camera up the rock. The lens caught a second shadow behind hers for exactly 1 frame. She never noticed. Day 21. She sat cross-legged inside her tent, rain hissing on nylon. The camcorder was on the sleeping bag pointed at her face. Still no bars, but when I key the mic on the handheld VHF, I hear breathing again. In and out. Perfect 4-second intervals. I counted. I said hello. It copied my rhythm exactly. I stopped breathing for 20 seconds, and it stopped too. Then it started again. Patient. She smiled, shaky but proud. I'm not scared. just respectful. Day 24. Only 9 minutes of footage. She's outside at dusk, a river the color of weak tea. Her face had thin cheekbones sharp, eyes huge. "I've decided something," she said, voice soft as moth wings. "This place isn't trying to hurt me. It's inviting me. The quiet isn't empty. It's full of room." She looked directly into the lens, and the smile that came was the most peaceful thing the search team would ever see on her. "It's so peaceful here, I think I'll stay." The recording didn't stop when she stopped talking. The card kept rolling for 7 hours and 11 minutes of wind moving through willows. If you raise the volume and slow the playback, the wind stops sounding like wind. It sounds like hundreds of voices whispering at once, all using the same slow, patient inhale she described on the radio. The whispers never quite form words, but every ranger who has listened swears they hear their own name somewhere inside the noise. Searchers flew in on day 36. They found her tent exactly as she left it, doors zipped, stove cold, food untouched. The camcorder sat on its little tripod aimed at the empty sleeping bag like it was waiting for her to come back and finish the sentence. Her boots were side by side at the foot of the bag, socks balled inside. The sat phone and PLB were lined up on top of her journal, both switched off by hand. No note, no struggle. Just absence so complete the valley seemed to exhale when they stepped into camp. They took the memory card, the journal, the radios that still sometimes breathe when you key them at night. Elise Moreau was never found. The Nahanni kept her the way a lung keeps air. Some places take one person gently, over weeks of courtship. Others prefer company they take 4, 5, 6 at once, like they're collecting voices for the chorus you hear when the wind learns how to speak.
We're going there next.
There is no road into gates of the Arctic. There isn't even a trail for the first 50 miles once you leave the Dalton Highway. 6 friends from Fairbanks flew in on a Super Cub drop-off, laughing and waving from the gravel bar like they were headed to summer camp instead of the biggest piece of wilderness left in America. They were celebrating, 3 couples, all in their late 20s, all experienced, all carrying the kind of expensive gear that makes rangers nod approvingly. Their itinerary was filed, their float plane pickup scheduled for August 19th at Anaktivuk Pass. They even left a bottle of champagne chilling in a snowbank cache for the ride home. The first 4 days were pure joy. Group selfies in front of caribou antlers, videos of them singing badly around a fire while the midnight sun circled the horizon like it forgot how to set. One clip shows them lining up to jump into an ice-rimmed tarn, screaming on the way down, surfacing, gasping, and laughing so hard the camera shakes. Day 5, they reached the Alatna River Valley and set up what was supposed to be their last big camp before the final push north. The site was perfect, flat gravel bar, ringed by dwarf willow, the Arajj peaks glowing rose gold in the distance. They radioed the pilot that night, clear, happy voices. "Weather's holding, see you on the 19th, save us some cold ones." That was the last anyone heard. When the plane buzzed the pickup point on the 19th and saw no smoke, no signal panels, the pilot called it in. Search planes went up the next morning. They found the camp at 10:14 a.m. on the 20th, exactly where it was supposed to be, and the pilot's voice cracked over the frequency. "I don't understand what I'm seeing. Everything was packed, not abandoned, packed." All 4 tents collapsed, rolled, and stuffed into their sacks with military precision. 6 backpacks stood in a perfect line, hip belts fastened, tops buckled, no dust on them, even though the wind had been blowing 20 knots all week. The bare canisters were closed and stacked like cannonballs. The food bag hung from a tree at exact regulation height, unopened. In the fire ring sat a titanium pot with 6 inches of water still gently boiling over a dead whisper light stove that had 0 fuel left in the bottle. The hiss of steam was the only sound in the valley. No footprints led away from camp. None. The gravel bar was scoured clean by wind, but the wind had not touched the packs or the tents. 6 pairs of boots sat in pairs beside the line of backpacks, socks folded inside, insoles still warm when the ranger touched them. They spread out for 2 miles in every direction. Nothing. Then, 300 yards upriver, a single set of tracks. 6 people walking Indian file across a patch of silt that the wind hadn't reached yet. The prints were fresh, deep at the heel, normal stride. 28 steps. On the 29th, the tracks simply stopped. No sliding, no scuff, no widening of stance like someone turned around. Just 6 lines of footprints ending in the middle of nowhere. The silt smooth and unmarked beyond that point, as if the earth had been smoothed by a hand. The search lasted 21 days, 2,000 man-hours, every grid flown twice. They found one more thing, a disposable camera inside one of the packs. The last photo, time-stamped 2:47 a.m. on the 17th, shows all 6 of them standing shoulder to shoulder on the gravel bar, facing the lens, smiling like they'd just heard the best joke of their lives. Behind them, the northern lights were blazing green and purple, bright enough to cast shadows. No one is holding the camera. It was on the tripod, a 10-second timer. In the foreground, 6 empty camp chairs wait in a circle around the dead fire. The lead ranger, a 29-year veteran named Tom Okapia, wrote a private note that never made the public report. He sealed it in the case file with a piece of tape that still hasn't been broken. Whatever took them didn't want us to think they left in a hurry. It gave them time to pack. It lets them line everything up. It waited until they were ready. That's what I can't forgive. At least those 6 disappeared together. They had each other until the last second. The next story is about someone who begged out loud on an open frequency not to be left alone, and still was. Mark Daniels had 23 years on the job, a voice like worn flannel, and a reputation for never leaving a call unanswered. On the evening of October 12th, he radioed the backcountry desk from the Cosby campground to say he was heading up the Madran Bald Trail to check reports of an illegal fire above the 4,000-foot line. Probably just some kids with too much whiskey, he said. I'll have them out by morning. Tell Sarah I might be late for meatloaf. The first check-in came at 9:47 p.m. Found the site. No fire now, but it's warm. 4 bedrolls, no packs, no food, no trash. Weird. Looks like they just laid down quilts and stared at the sky. I'm gonna wait and see if they come back. At 11:12 p.m., he sounded puzzled, not yet worried. Mark to base. They're here, 4 of them, sitting in a semicircle about 30 yards off trail. No coats, no headlamps, temps dropping to 40. They're not campers, base. They don't blink. They're just watching me. I'm watching back. Dispatch asked if he needed backup. Daniels laughed, the same easy laugh that had calmed 1,000 tourists. Negative. I'm gonna walk over and have a conversation. Probably just some hippies on a vision quest. That was the last time he ever sounded annoyed. October 13th, 8:06 a.m. His voice was softer, almost fond. They never moved all night. Didn't sleep, didn't speak, just sat there breathing slowly, like they were matching the forest. I sat with them for a while. It's peaceful. You ever notice how loud your own thoughts are when nothing else is making noise? The 13th of October, 2:22 p.m. I tried to get them to hike out with me. They stood up politely, like I asked them to dance, then sat right back down. When I stepped closer, they tilted their heads the same exact angle, all 4 at once. I ain't scared.
Base.
I'm curious. Something about the way they look at you makes the worries fall off, like shedding a heavy coat you forgot you were wearing. By nightfall, his reports had the gentle cadence of bedtime stories. The moon came up red through the smoke from the wildfires down in Georgia. They smiled when they saw it. The first time I saw them.
Smile.
It's the kind of smile your dog gives you when you finally come home. I think I'm starting to understand what they're waiting for. October 14th, 11:40 a.m. The microphone clicked on without a call sign.
All he said was, "Tell the kids their dad loves them."
Tell Sarah the woods were always where I was happiest. I see it now. I see everything. Dispatch begged for a position. He answered with a sigh that sounded almost content.
I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Last official transmission, 2:13 a.m., October 15th. Just 8 words, delivered slow and warm, like a man slipping into a hot bath. Don't send anyone. It's not what you think. Then the carrier wave stayed open for 4 minutes of absolute silence. No static, no breath, no heartbeat, before the repeater finally dropped. They found his truck at 7:30 a.m. on the Alatna pull-off, engine idling smooth, driver door standing open. The thermos of coffee on the dash is still too hot to hold. Uniform shirt neatly folded on the passenger seat, badge placed square in the center like it was waiting for inspection. Duty belt hung on the gear shift, radio mic dangling, still warm. Boot prints led 20 yards up the trail into a little clearing ringed by rhododendron. The prints stopped dead center in the clearing. No return marks. No disturbance in the leaves. Just the faint smell of crushed hemlock and the soft, steady breathing you can sometimes still hear if you key that frequency at night and listen hard enough. The 4 campers were never located. No missing person reports ever matched. Surveillance cameras at the park entrance recorded nothing unusual the entire week. Mark Daniels became case 2017-087 MIA, 1 paragraph in the annual report. But every ranger who worked the Smokies that season still refuses to work solo after dark, because somewhere along the Madran Bald Loop the roles reversed. The watcher became the watched, and whatever was looking finally liked what it saw enough to keep it. Some places don't take your body. They take your fear first, peel it away layer by layer until you walk forward smiling, grateful to be going home at last. Our final story is about the ones who tried to run and discovered the woods had learned their names years before they were born. The peak doesn't have an official name. On the Sawtooth National Forest map, it's just contour 10, 840, a bald granite thumb that barely rises above the ridgeline. Old sheepherders called it Black Mountain because storms hide there first. In 2022, 3 friends from boys, Jules, Ryan, and Mara, decided the rumors were worth a weekend. For 20 years, hunters had reported a steady white glow on the summit after midnight, bright enough to read by, no flicker, no source. Some said it was a plain wreck burning forever.
Some said worse.
They left the Iron Creek trailhead on a Friday with 2 pros, a drone, and the cocky energy of people who thought mystery was just another thing to bag and post. The first 8 hours of footage are standard influencer fare, sweaty jokes, drone shots of sapphire lakes, Mara rapping badly over wind noise. They reached the summit ridge at sunset, set up camp 200 feet below the top, and cooked ramen while the alpenglow bled out across half of Idaho. At 11:17 p.m. the glow appeared. Not a flash, not a beam, a soft milk-white disk the size of a full moon hovering 30 feet above the summit rocks. No heat shimmer, no hum. Just light, steady and warm, like someone left a porch lamp on for them. Ryan's GoPro caught Jules whispering, "That's not right, but it's beautiful." They should have been terrified. Instead, their voices dropped into the same hushed register people use in churches. They broke camp without discussion, moving uphill in single file, headlamps off because the glow lit the talus better than any flashlight. The footage becomes dreamlike. Slow steps, gentle laughter, no stumbling even though the slope is knife-edge scree. At 0:42 a.m., they reached the summit proper, a flat area the size of a living room, and the light lowered itself until it floated at eye level, 10 yards away. You can hear their breathing slow, match, deepen. Jules set the GoPro on a rock pointed inward. Ryan did the same with the second camera. Then all 3 sat in a small circle, knees touching, and took hands like kids about to play Ring Around the Rosie. They never spoke again. They simply looked up into the light with soft, uncomplicated smiles, the kind you see on babies when they first figure out faces. Snow began to fall, fat, lazy flakes drifting down, then pausing, then rising again, carried upward into the glow as if gravity had changed its mind. The cameras kept recording. For 9 days, the memory cards filled with the same static shot. 3 friends sitting perfectly still, hands linked, faces tilted toward a light that never dimmed and never moved. Their smiles never changed. Snow rose and fell around them like a slow-motion tide. Batteries that should have died in 24 hours kept going. Temperature dropped to -10. Frost never formed on their jackets. On the 9th morning, the light brightened once, sudden and tender, the way a mother turns on a nursery lamp. The three friends leaned forward in perfect unison, foreheads almost touching the glow. Then the cameras finally went black. Searchers reached the summit on day 12. They found the GoPros upright on their little tripods, lenses clean. The three friends were gone. No footprints leading away, no scuffs, no depressions in the frozen scree where bodies had sat for over a week. Just two cameras, two empty circles of stone, and a faint warmth still rising from the rock as if something large and loving had only just left. The glow has been seen again since. Lower now. Sometimes as low as 8,000 feet, drifting along ridges where the trails actually have names. Rangers have started finding fresh boot prints that stop dead on switchbacks. Cameras left running on stumps, voices on open mics saying, "It's okay, it's so warm," before the signal goes quiet. Whatever has been waiting in the high places for centuries isn't content with the forgotten corners anymore. It's learning the trails we use. It's getting brighter, and it already knows how to smile. We are left with 5 empty places and one quiet question no one answers out loud. In every case, the silence arrived first, sudden as a held breath. One moment voices echoed, radios crackled, rivers roared. The next sound itself walked away and never came back. Searchers describe it the same way. A feeling like stepping into a room where an argument just ended, only the room is 10,000 square miles and the argument was with existence. Then the camps. Not abandoned, curated. Tent zipped or neatly folded. Boots aligned as if for morning inspection. Dinner still warm, water still boiling. Chairs still pulled into circles that waited for bodies that never returned. Everything packed or arranged with a care no panicked human being has ever shown. Whatever happens out there, it happens after permission is given. The people themselves are always calm at the end. No screams on any recorder, no frantic running in the footage. Just softening voices, gentle smiles, the slow unclenching of shoulders that have carried fear their whole lives. They look in the final seconds like children who have been lost for hours and suddenly spot their parents across a crowded room. Relief so complete it feels like betrayal to the ones left behind. Footprints stop. Not fade, not scatter, stop. 28 steps, 37, 12, always mid-stride, heel down, and the next print missing forever. The ground beyond is untouched, as if the earth simply closed the page. And the small things, the ones that crawl under the skin of every ranger who has walked these files. Trees with patches of bark rubbed smooth at exactly human height, the way a deer polishes antlers. Only the rubs are 6 feet off the ground and form perfect spirals you can follow for miles if you know to look. Stones arranged in rings too round to be natural. Always the same number of fist-sized rocks as people missing, placed after searchers flew out the night before and discovered at dawn. The smell of wood smoke drifting across meadows where no fire has burned in recorded history. Sweet and homey and close enough to make you turn around expecting company. Radios that breathe when keyed at 3 a.m., slow, patient lungs that match whoever is holding the mic. GoPros that keep recording long after batteries should be dead, aimed at empty sitting circles where the snow falls upward. Journals that end mid-sentence in a period too perfect to be accidental. A child's stuffed giraffe keeping watch from a boulder no child could have reached. Northern lights bright enough to cast shadows on faces that should have been terrified and weren't. We tell ourselves stories about bears, avalanches, expericults, experimental aircraft, anything with edges we can file the fear against. But the paperwork does not lie. The evidence is gentle. The absence is polite. Whatever is doing the taking has learned manners over centuries and now waits, glowing a little brighter each decade for us to finish packing. 5 times it chose. 5 times it left the campsites tidier than we ever manage ourselves. 5 times it took only what was freely offered the moment the last fear fell away. The wilderness is not cruel. It is simply done lending us its children. And the trails are getting quieter every year. You'll close this video and tell yourself it's just stories. That's okay. That's what they all said, right up until the moment they smiled and stayed. But next time you drive past a quiet ranger station, glance at the corkboard by the door. Look closely at the missing posters tacked under the flickering bulb. Some of them carry dates from next spring, next summer, dates that haven't happened yet. The photos are fresh, the smiles familiar. You'll swear you've never seen those faces before, and you'll be right. Not yet. Look again at any satellite map of the big wilderness areas. Zoom out, then zoom back in a month later. Watch the green creep outward, acre by acre, swallowing old logging roads, abandoned mines, the faint scars we thought we left behind. No one approves the boundary changes. No one signs the forms. The land just grows when no one is looking, the way a shadow stretches at dusk. And the quietest question of all, the one rangers only whisper after the station lights go out. Why do some hikers, years later, report hearing their own name carried on the wind, spoken gently, patiently, from a direction where no trail has ever been? America is still wild in places the maps gave up on. Places that never needed our permission to exist. Places that waited under glaciers, under centuries of pine needles and silence, until we finally walked far enough in to hear the invitation.
They know your name.
They've always known it. Thank you for walking with me tonight.
If you ever feel the quiet settle too perfectly around your tent, if the fire suddenly smells like home, if the stars look closer than they should, don't turn around too fast.
Just finish packing. They hate to be kept waiting. Soft wind rises, distant owl calls once, twice, then the sound falls away, layer by layer, until there is nothing left but your own breathing in the dark. Hold it for 30 seconds. Don't move. They're listening.